Thank you for tuning in to Uncommon Women, a podcast that provides a platform for women of all walks of life to share their upbringings, life lessons learned, experiences, and journeys to come. Uncommon Women speaks on topics that can relate to all women. We share, we listen, we laugh, we cry, and we empower each other to be the best uncommon woman that they can be. Ultimately, we are cultivating a global movement of women supporting women. Women supporting entrepreneurship, relationships, self-love, and so much more. We inspire each other to make an impact on this world for the better. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to Uncommon Women. Now, finally, grab a seat, get comfortable, and hear from your wonderful hosts, Chaniera and Jenni Lee. Hi, kings and queens. Thank you so much for tuning in to Uncommon Women. I'm Chaniera.
And I'm Jenni.
And today we have an amazing guest speaker, relationship coach, podcast owner, book author, and more by the name of Treamell Lawrence, who's going to speak with us today on the value of marriage and why it's so important. So thank you so much, Treamell, for coming in today and being a part of Uncommon Women. Before we get into today's topic, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your upbringing?
Yeah, well, first off, thank you so much, Uncommon Women, for having me on today. It's such an honor to be on your show to share my thoughts on your amazing podcast. So first off, I'm truly honored, Jenni, Chaniera, thank you so much. Wow, where shall I begin? Well, just to be as brief as possible, just growing up and being raised by a single mother without a strong father influence, I would say that affected me during my early dating years, which produced, I would say, a lot of trials and errors that occurred during that time. But I have to honestly say that each lesson made me into the man I am today.
Okay.
And I feel like this is why I'm a huge advocate for healthy relationships, healthy marriages, and two-parent households, because having your source leading by example, I feel like is very contagious. And I'm not saying that single parents can't do it, but having that, that nurturing and leadership and that masculine and feminine energy are critical aspects towards a child's development. But I'm happily married with two amazing daughters, happily married. I have one that's 17, senior in high school, honor student, and I have another one that's 4 years old in pre-K. And I live in Middletown, Connecticut. And the last thing I just want to share with your audience, and we'll probably get more into, but please, go to my website, dearbrothersdearsisters.com, which is a platform dedicated to healthy monogamous relationships. And there's so many different nuggets up there. The book, Dear Brothers, Dear Sisters, Listen Up, dedicated to our brothers and sisters to avoid those pitfalls that happen so much throughout our life, which I should have had when I was younger. And also it breaks down the 3 C's, and that's communication, comprehension, and compromise, which I feel like are 3 important aspects when it comes to a healthy monogamous relationships.
That's amazing. So you're the only guy in the house with 3 women.
Pretty much that's it. The only one. Holding it down, but they keep me grounded, though. They keep me grounded.
And you have so much patience.
Yes.
I applaud you.
I mean, to having 3 women, you have to have the patience.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
you're right.
Thank you so much for sharing a little bit about your life. Can you tell us how you and your wife actually met?
Wow. Where should I begin with that? Good question. I mean, when I met my wife, she was actually downtown Middletown. It was her and a few of her other friends. And, I decided to approach her, because I feel like everything in life, whether it's relationship, whether it's business, whether it's jumping out of an airplane, you got to take risk and hope you hope that parachute will open. So I decided to approach her, and I introduced myself, and I stated to her, hey, I would just love to exchange contact information with you so that way we can get to know each other. And
Okay.
also I did ask those pre-qualifying questions, whether she was single. I looked at her hand, anything like that. And and from that point on, everything was pretty cool. Actually, our first date, the very next week was downtown Middletown. We order a Subway sandwich, foot long. We split it down the middle. Had 2 strawberry coladas from Dunkin' Donuts, and we walked around Middletown and talked for like an entire 2 hours. And she said this was the best date she's ever been on, just to have someone that stimulate her mind. And I felt this the same way, vice versa. So, it just goes to show that when you take your time to, it takes a lot of effort to get to know someone versus just spending money on someone. And I just think that the whole stimulation of the mind was what really attracted us to each other to begin with.
That's amazing, and that's bold.
Oh,
Yes,
that is bold.
I love the whole part when you were like, I have to definitely check her finger, and that's important. You gotta definitely check somebody's finger. Yeah, because you ain't trying to pro somebody that has a ring on their finger.
No, I mean, you'll get shut down with the quickness. A lot of people, they're not aware. They're not aware about those things. So it's very important to look at the verbal and nonverbal aspects. So non-verbally, I was observing her. Not she's visually appealing, but also the hand. I'm like, okay, don't want to cross no lines here.
Okay.
But
So when you and your wife were dating, so what did you see in your wife that made you want to marry her or proved that she was the one for you?
That's a really good question. I'll say one thing that stood out to me was the simple fact that she embraced her natural feminine essence. And I feel that's lacking today with a lot of our sisters out there. She's very easygoing. The most important aspect that captivated me was the fact that she has standards, and she let me know her intent up front. And her intentions was well known, that she was dating with a purpose, and she wanted a man to build with. I'll have to say it was her standards that attracted me the most, because not just her mysterious flirtatious output that turned me on, but I was so intrigued that I knew that I had to work for her heart and her mind instead of her. Most guys, they see the outside factor, but her heart and mind was what really drew me in. Because one thing about sisters such as her, as well as other sisters out there that have standards, they're rare, and a man likes anything that's rare, whether it's a pair of Air Jordans that you don't see too many people wearing, or maybe that certain car that nobody else has, or even jewelry. But when it comes to a woman, most of us want something that not everyone else has. And for her having standards separated her from a lot of other sisters I was dating during that time. So much that I had to clear the bench and say that that's the one. That's the one. So, the standards combined with her intentions being known at the beginning, stating that, hey, I'm looking for someone to build with. That floored me. That intrigued me the most. I'm like, wow.
Did you feel like you had to level up on your standards to get with her, or did you feel like you was already there?
Great question. I felt like I was already there, because, as far as like a man is concerned, it's like there's 3 levels, which we can go on later on during the course of the show. But the third level I was at was that I wanted a woman I wanted quality, not quantity. Most brothers at a certain level, which is level 2, they worry about the quantity aspect, because the most important pillar in their mind is sex at the top of everything. And my mind frame, I was at level 3. Level 3 in a man's mind is respect is at the top of the pillar. So respect is above sex. And when you have respect, you want someone with integrity. You just don't want the visual appealing. You want the essence of that person. You want the substance. You want a partner, a companion. And that's what I was looking for at that time. And You know, not to say the other woman I was dating, they were great women, but she had what I was looking for, and that's why I made her the one.
And I think it's important while you are dating to clarify what you want and your standards, because some people
Yes.
don't really be clear, or they say this is what they want and end up wanting the opposite, and that's how they end up settling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I agree with you wholeheartedly, because some people think like, oh, if I say my intentions up front, I may scare that person. Maybe that
Yeah.
person think that I'm being desperate because I say I want marriage or whatever like that. In fact, that's a good thing, because if you're turning other people away by being true to yourself as to what you really want,
Yep.
then that person
And that's
wasn't
you.
you to begin with. That person wasn't really yours to begin with. So the simple fact that she had those non-negotiable traits and the values and her standards, that's what really turned me on, because she was staying true to herself. And to me, that's a diamond compared to a lot of Cuban zirconias out there. A lot of other sisters out there, they just tend to go with the flow, with the
Sway.
other person
Yep.
not giving you no intent or no plan as to where the relationship is heading or where they would like the relationship to head. But to have somebody to tell you, hey, I'm dating with a purpose, this is what I would like to head to, that's very attractive. Very.
I like that. Um, Speaking on, boundaries and, going with the flow,
Right.
do you feel or do you believe, well, what do you believe is lacking in generations today when it comes to relationships?
Good question. I love this podcast already, you guys. Man. I think what's lacking today, I would say values and morals. Um, I feel like today is more of a validation generation, and collectively, without these two components, with these two components lacking heavily, it creates, I feel, more dysfunctional relationships, which creates a domino effect to more broken homes. And
Mm-hmm.
it seems like today that modern society, they push that instant gratification propaganda. The narrative is to only focus on the chemistry without any personal guidelines to
Right.
see if you're compatible with that particular person. And I feel like what ends up happening when you don't have values and morals, you emotionally become attached to the wrong person, which ends up creating a vicious cycle unless the narrative can be changed or reversed. And the only way you could change or reverse it is to definitely listen to platforms such as the Uncommon Woman, you know, listen to platforms like DBDS, so that way you can unlearn what you learn in order to become a better version of yourself. Because simple fact is, you got to have both. You got to have chemistry and you got to have logic, got to have emotions and logic. And when you have both, that builds like an emotional awareness as to what people to entertain
Mm.
and what
Yeah.
people are consistent and what people are real and what people are authentic. Because at the end of the day, the choice is always ours. We can't
Yeah.
always get into these unhealthy relationships or dysfunctional relationships and continue to blame that person, whereas we have to take accountability
Accountability.
and
Come
just
Yeah.
on.
Yep.
realize that, hey, when the emotions are up, intelligence go down. So that's why we got to have both in order to balance it, to make us more aware of what people are true in our life. And that's what's lacking: values and morals. That's what's needed.
Absolutely. I also feel like people these days, they have a view of this fantasy of what a relationship's supposed to be,
Yep.
and
Very
Right.
true.
Mhm.
it's based off of entertainment, and I don't think they really see that that's not reality. That's not how your relationship's going to be. Everybody's relationship is going to be different. I feel like if
Yeah.
people are rushing into relationships
Yep.
without actually taking the time to get to know the person because of a need or a void, and I feel as though when you're lacking something, the other person is not going to fully heal what you're voiding. Another person can't make you happy on that level. You have to be whole in order to be happy. So they're getting in these relationships expecting someone to make them happy, and when they're no longer happy, they want something else. They're still yearning for it because they're not fully healed, and they're expecting the other person to be their happiness.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, the fear of being alone will one day leave that person lonely, and I believe that you have to start operating out of place from desperation, trying to get a man or a woman. I think you're right. You have to be complete first, so that way you can share your completeness with that person. Because when you come from the format or mindset of look at someone to complete you, then all you're doing is really depleting the other person, and you're only halfway full. So you can't give yourself entirely to that person. So then it becomes a lopsided relationship, which one person will feel more selfish and one person will feel more selfless. And all that's going to do is just build resentment and animosity, and the relationship is going to grow apart.
It's going to garnish.
It is. I mean, dating period in this time is hard. It is hard.
It's hard in these dating streets. Yeah.
Yes, it is definitely hard. So I had to like really say that because listen, being a single woman, for 5 years now, it's been, because, when you have a goal and your goal is your purpose is to date, to get married, it is so hard when somebody trying to get to know you, like Chaniera said, like people just want to rush, and people are not fully healed, and you have to go through that journey. You have to see who you are. And believe me, if I can, tell you the stories and trying to date, I get to a point sometimes, forget it.
It gets frustrating. It does.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because, and that's what you just stated, Jenni, is the perfect segue to what I illustrated. Just not having, because I was raised in a single parent household. My mother raised me, and without having, and I love my mother. Shout out to my moms, by the way, but not having a strong.
Hey, moms.
But without having that strong father influence, what was lacking and what was missing is that masculinity. It was missing that leadership capability that could have been applied to me. And don't get me wrong, my mother gave me advice, but it's not the same guidance as getting it from, a man of stature, a man that, can give you the proper guidance. Just to give you an example, I believe it was like last year, years ago, excuse me. My daughter was riding a bike and she was doing the wheelie off the curb. She ended up hurting herself and busted her lip. Now, one person came over, my daughter's mother came over and was like, hey, she nurtured her, she comforted her. She was like, hey, baby, everything's going to be okay. Me, I came over there, I dust her off. This is her, the mic, dust her off, And I just told her, like, listen, just get back on that bike. And next time you see that curb, make sure you do a left. So that way you don't fall off the bike. And that's just an example, just to get the nurturing aspect from the mother side of things, but also you get the guidance and the leadership from the father.
Yes.
So when she was on that bike, she didn't go off the curb. She did a left and she was guided in the proper direction. And that's why I feel like I'm so passionate just to have us to build self-awareness, so that way we can be more mindful of the type of partner we want to be in our lives, the type of partner that we could see as the father to the kids or the mother to our kids and so forth. Because when you have that, trust me, it just goes a long way to create more of a dynamic, positive factor for the children in those circumstances.
And a strong foundation.
Yeah.
Yes.
A strong foundation, because I've noticed, me being a single mother, not only being the nurturer, but I also got to be the disciplined person. Our relationship when my son was younger, it didn't go well.
I'm sorry to hear that.
It didn't go well because I had to discipline, but I also had to be the one like, it's okay, things are okay. And then he built this like resentment, you know?
Yeah.
But as he got older, he realized, and our relationship's great now, but as he got older, he realized that I wasn't disciplining him because I'm the parent, just to show him that, you know, there's reasons or certain circumstances you can't do certain things because it's going to help you in the long run.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I thank God, you know, I thank God that my son realizes that now, because it's built our relationship. And I feel as though, you know, in a 2-parent household, you have, you know, the father that can be not just the, like you said, the masculine, but also show them the ropes of stuff.
Yeah.
And the mother can just sit back and be the nurturer.
Yeah, and this is why I tell brothers that, listen, when you're in your natural masculinity, it makes everyone else in the household more relaxed. Believe me, you know, my wife said to me the other day, she said, you're in control, but you're not a controlling man. And she said that's what she loves about
I like that.
our relationship. Yes. And I'm like, well, it went over my head at first, but when you really listen to it, you're in control, but you're not a controlling man. She was just breaking things down that, wow, you just do things knowing that I'm not asking of what's going to happen. Like, I feel so relaxed. Like the mortgage is fine.
Yeah.
She said she feels so relaxed, and it makes her more feminine, and it makes her more nurturing, you know, when everything's in that. So it's just an amazing it's amazing to have both people that understand each other's roles, like each other's natural essence when it comes to that, because a lot of people don't. There's some brothers in, I call them mother and child relationships, you know, whereas they don't have any ambition. They just don't have any sense of direction as to where they're going. And I tell men, before you get into relationships, if you can't lead yourself, then you can't lead a relationship.
That's true.
So, you know, and then I tell my sisters, listen, you know, always put a man's character first and just don't follow his wallet. So on both sides of the coin, I think we have a lot of work to do.
We do.
You know, like my daughter, she's 17, she's about to be 18. I tell her the importance of relationships. I just tell her it's not all about chasing the bag or anything of that nature, but human interaction is the most important portion of life in general. That's higher than the bag, because money can come and go, you know, all those things. But the interaction you have with your natural counterpart, that's going to be hopefully a lifetime, whoever she decides to be with. So I think it's very important to always promote how important both sides are, because these days so many people saying like, hey, I don't need a man, I'm independent. And you got the brothers out there that just, again, they have this sex on the top of the pillar instead of respect. So they're missing out on bride-worthy women. They're just missing out. And then later on, they're like, oh my goodness, where are the good women? Well, while you was out there putting sex at the top of the pillar, you was missing a lot of great women, man. A lot. Now you're 65 years old in the nightclub, jumping up and down.
And they're looking at you like, what are you doing in here?
Right, they're looking at you like, oh, you know, it's crazy. And it's pretty sad, but you know, I think that's the worst feeling, to die alone. And I don't think anyone wants to die alone, from my perspective. You know,
I truly believe there is somebody for someone.
I agree.
You know, and I mean, that's how the good Lord put it. He said it himself. There's someone for somebody. Even though sometimes we meet people, and I can tell, like, you know, when you start talking to someone, I'm just like, I gotta cut them off. I just go by like, they're not meant for me. They're not meant for me. And sometimes when you're like, especially like we were talking like a little bit, we were talking about dating, you know, when you're trying to like break it down to them, like, you know, I don't think we're in the same, you know, mindset. I don't think we're compatible. I've gotten where guys would just curse me out completely.
Yeah.
So, like I said, and like you said, it's hard to date, especially when people aren't completely healed.
Right.
So it's frustrating, but there's someone for somebody there.
It is. It is. It's always someone for somebody out there. I don't truly believe God has put us on this earth to be like, hey, single for the rest of my life.
Nope,
No,
Right.
neither do I.
not at all. So it just goes back to how the modern society is setting up these smoke screens, and that's why I value marriage so much. Some people get this narrative in their head like, nah, marriage, you're gonna be on lockdown, and it's oh my goodness, Jenni, it's a death sentence. Chaniera, it's a death sentence. Whereas, for me and other people I know that's in healthy marriages, I see it as freedom. Like I see it as you can be authentic. You can, it's like having your best friend and your lover all in one in a lifetime contract.
I like the way that
That's how. Oh,
sounds.
thank you, my sister.
Yeah.
See the different perspective. That's
I love it. I love it.
We post it everywhere so that everyone can see.
Thank you, my sister. So when I hear people saying it's just a business contract or it's just a piece of paper, they truly don't understand the true essence of it. Where marriage is between man, woman, and God. The three-way covenant is much, much deeper than a piece of paper. Much deeper than a business contract. Now, as far as the business aspect, there are some elements I could see where people will use that analogy as far as the rules of engagement within a relationship, knowing not to violate certain things. Just like in the business, you don't violate certain things, so you're out the contract. I could see it that much. But just to say marriage is a business, no wonder a lot of marriages are failing, because there's love in that marriage. There's a spirituality and emotions in that marriage, and if you just turn it into a business, then guess what? Without any love in it, it's not going to last at all.
That's right.
Because there's no underlining love or lust to that significant other to keep that escalated attraction within that relationship. So I think people they come with all these different terminologies and so forth, but this is why we're declining the marriage institution. 30% of marriages are declining, and it's pretty sad. Pretty sad. But we're trying to change that mindset, though. We're trying.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's get into some of that.
Yes.
What are some things that engaged couples should discuss prior to getting married, or even if you're dating, courting, trying to marry? What are some things that couples should be discussing prior to marriage?
Okay. Well, I know I'll just take the example of my wife and I before we discuss. So definitely finances. I think that should be discussed. Whether you want to share bank accounts, whether you want to keep individual accounts, both, or you want to keep a percentage towards the emergency fund, I think that's important. For example, my wife and I, we see our money. It's not my money or her money. We see it as our money, even though we have separate accounts, but we have one large account. But still, everything, all these components are still our money. So that's how we view things. So finances is very important. I would say another important aspect is kids. Do you want to have kids? Are you open to having some more? If so, how many? If you don't want kids, are you open to adoption? So I think that's important because, there's some brothers that want to have their legacy to continue.
Yes.
And we're no longer on this earth. Another one would be religion. My wife and I discuss religion, and we're both Christians, but it's important to know that up front, because if you're a Christian and this person is something entirely different, then it may can become an obstacle within a relationship. So, how does your religion, or I'll say lifestyle, affects your decisions, or your faith affects your lifestyles per se?
Right.
There's plenty of more to discuss before marriage, but to me, those three things: finances, kids, and religion. My wife and I, those were the basics to get things off ground.
I like that.
Yes.
One thing that I do ask people when dating is, how do they handle stressful situations? I think
good one.
I think based on their response to that, it shows how they would handle things in a family of how they're, the head of the household and things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that's
And I
very
think,
true. Yes, go ahead, Jenny.
go ahead. Go ahead. I mean, that is important
Uh-huh.
because, I mean, when you can't just go into a relationship or a marriage and those things are not being spoke about,
Right.
it'll cause a lot of obstacles and hardship in the relationship. And like you said, you'll end up divorcing. So why go through the whole hassle? Sometimes people think love will make everything
Enough.
love. I mean, of course there's love in there, but love ain't gonna pay bills. Love is not gonna make you have kids. I mean,
Right.
obviously it's gonna make you have kids, but in my perspective, they just hold the word love above everything and don't talk about the important things.
Mm-hmm.
You're so right about that. I mean, this is why I feel like you can't allow the emotions to override your logic. You got to have both, right? So, when you just have love alone or emotions alone, you don't ever think about if this person is compatible with you. Like,
Yep.
how would this person be compatible with you when it comes to your health, or compatible with you when it comes to your business?
Yeah.
They can easily be someone that can be mentally draining, emotionally draining, and spiritually draining, but you're emotionally attracted to that person. So if you just focus on the emotions and end up with someone that's not compatible with you, then in the long haul, it's going to be not a great relationship, because the compatibility is very important when it comes to your values and your core, and what you believe in and what that person believe in, because that person's values could be low integrity. They may be a liar all the time, and your values could be you have high integrity.
Yes.
But you're attracted to that person because he got tattoos and he's tall and handsome. You're attracted, but
All the wrong reasons.
but it's not sustainable. But the underneath it all, it's not sustainable because that person has low integrity. You have high, so the values and the compatibility is not going to happen. At all.
Do you believe a person that doesn't have experience in committed relationship is ready for marriage?
Not at all. I think someone with that mindset, well, anyone can possibly change. I'm not going to say no one cannot change. However, it takes that person will have to do a lot of inner healing and self-reflection in order for that to do so. So I think it's very important to still have awareness, so that way you don't put yourself in a particular situation that may cost you in the long run.
Okay. I think that's good.
Yeah. So I have a question. What is your perspective on monogamy? And I know that is more, I think more is hard for males these days. So can you give us your perspective on that? I definitely want to hear this.
Well, you know what? I can't speak for every man out there. And I think that's a really great question. But, you have your grown boys and you have your grown men. There's two different species, in my opinion, and just to illustrate my point, usually us men, we go through 3 phases, and the first phase is when we're first sexually active for the first time. Our main premises are 2 things: how to get more sisters and how to get better sisters. That's it. That's it. So, and then the second phase, I would say, is when a brother becomes more experienced and he's used more effective techniques and he's more flashy. He knows what to say and he's more charming. And his primary focus is to see how many more notches he can get underneath his belt. And I feel like brothers who have this mindset have been taught to value sex over everything else. So sex is still the top pillar below respect. That's the top. And those are the ones that have a hard time or will not be able to be in a monogamous relationship because they stuck in that second phase. You know, monogamous relationship is the furthest things from their mind. And if they do get into a monogamous relationship, they'll end up constantly violating the personal boundaries that was created because they're still in that second phase. But the third phase, which there are a lot of men out there in this third phase, that's the phase I was at before I met my wife. That's when you prefer quality over quantity. Now, you know, you want to hang up your player jersey. You don't want to rotate the bench no more. You want someone that's a companion, someone that's a partner, someone that just wants you for you and not the finished project. Someone that's willing to emotionally push you beyond your limits. Because I truly feel that you women are very powerful. This is why I call you queens, the most powerful piece on the chessboard. But you guys can emotionally push us to a level higher than itself. And when we get to that level, that's when we're very mature. Now, there are some men at level 3 that still won't commit, but the reason why they won't commit because they're looking for that special woman. Like I was looking for that special woman, and they're being very careful not to just select a woman that's not at core with their value per se, you know. So those are the 3 levels. But you know, a lot of men that's at level 2. This is why it's hard for them so many to stick with that. And there's other theories behind it too. Very other theories. It could be that some brothers, when they was young or in high school, they did not get the attention that they wanted. They were hoping to get, but as they got older and they're financially stable, now they're getting attention like they never had before. So they just want to play the field now because they weren't able to play back then when they did not have all the high social status that they had in those prior years. So there's other theories behind it as well. But you know, I can't speak for every man. Those are my theories, my concepts. But that's why I feel like it's hard for a lot of men to like really, really settle down. You know, sisters have to be careful to distinguish a grown boy versus a grown man. They look the same, but characteristically wise, we're entirely different.
Right.
Very true. Like Michelle says, you can't raise no man.
No. You can't. If you have a brother that's just very understanding, he uses assertive communication, he does not force you to do something you don't want to do. You know, and some sisters be like, wow, that's attractive. You know, he's very cool, salon, calm. If he disagrees with you, he's still respectful and calm. And, you know, those are all green flags. Now, a grown boy, you get a disagreement with him, he's gonna probably argue with you, go back and forth, you know, say something like a little white lie, but he's like, oh, I forgot to tell you, know, he knew what he was doing, but little white lies equal big lies. No integrity. Those are things you have to look out for. You know.
I feel like monogamy relationships are hard because a lot of people are just being fake. Going into relationships, you know, being someone that you aren't, you know, it's gonna come out. It's
very true. It will come out.
I feel like when people are being fake and not being themselves, they're making it harder for them in the long run. Especially if you're dating someone that has a strong personality, and then they come off as being, you know, I don't know. I ain't gonna say nothing on, but I just feel like people just need to be themselves and know what they want in relationships, because when you know what you're looking for, it hinders anything else that's in the way. You know, it puts them on a pedestal where you're either there or you're not. And when you're not being yourself, it's going to come out.
Yep, it's true. I mean, it could take 6 months. It can take a little more, but the fake will come out.
I mean, you're right. I mean, a lot of people put their representatives ahead of everything. You know, they don't want to be transparent and so forth. And that's what I loved about my wife before I met her. It was her authentically. She was not only that she told me, but you know, this is the kind of woman she is, but she was showing me the kind of woman she is. She was just very nurturing. She wasn't the type of woman that state like, I'm gonna be feminine when you marry me. I'm gonna become a wife when you marry me. You know, it wasn't like that. It's almost as if when I hear a woman say that, it's like, I know how to swim, but I'm not gonna start swimming until you throw me in the ocean. Like,
Right.
you know, but she was very nurturing and just very kind. And that's what really I was intrigued by that. Like, even though she was nurturing kind, she still has standards.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of sisters don't understand. Being feminine doesn't make you weak. I actually think it's alluring and is very attractive when you're. And plus another thing too, she left the rest to a man's imagination. She wasn't flamboyant, or she had to put it all out there in order for me to be attracted to her. Because as I stated earlier, you know, being rare these days, everyone wants something that someone else does not have. That's how most men think. And just the simple fact that she wasn't like all the other women out there. And, you know, as you can see on Facebook, you see how it is, you know, mostly, I'm not going to get into it, but it's a lot of, you know, there's some sisters out there that lead with their body. And she was not that type of person. She got attention without getting attention, without craving for attention. And I think that's very attractive when you can still just be you and not crave it, but still get it. That's wow. You know, other sisters have to try to get attention, you know.
That's the being fake part comes in.
Oh, that's the fake part.
and that's sad. And I feel like when a woman has to try, it's because she has some insecurities. And
bingo.
And you don't have to try. Be yourself. And that's important. That's where self-love comes in. Because how are you supposed to have if you don't have self-love for yourself wholeheartedly, how are you supposed to love the next person? You know, you're coming into a relationship where insecurities, oh, I love you, but you're having these insecurities and wanting attention everywhere. I mean, like I said, you know, who am I to judge? But, you know, because I've been there down the road myself in the past. But I mean, it's you just need to self-heal, because you cannot, it's just, you're just being fake with yourself, like Chaniera said, and it's just going to cause so much more issues than the insecurities that you already have as it is.
Yeah, I mean, Jenni, I like how you broke that down, because that's the difference between someone that walks in life with that self-love creates like an abundance mindset, right? It you know, it just gives you that mindset that, hey, you know, it's less attachment to all these superficial things out there. Like, I can really just be me, you know. I don't have to seek short-term approval or validation in order to get their validation as to what I'm worth. You know, it's almost as if you're going to you walking into a job interview, and the job position you're applying for is really 100,000. That's how much that position is worth. But if you're going in there and you don't know your worth, and you see yourself as 35,000, that's all you're worth, then that interview is not going to hire you for the 100,000, which you should have gotten. They're just going to be like, okay, work for 35,000, you know. But when you know your worth, you'll be able to put yourself on that pedestal. A better you will attract a better natural counterpart. You know, so absolutely.
I agree. So you had spoke on the 3 C's. Are those your values in a marriage, or do you have 3 more important values that you think is good in a marriage?
Well, yes, to me, those values are very, very important. I mean, there are other values as well, but the communication, comprehension, and compromise are very important. Like, those are the basics, because the thing is, sometimes it's not what you say, but how you say it. And how you say it can make the other person understand you more, which is the comprehension portion. And then if you understand more, and if you come across some sort of disagreement or a certain obstacle, you're able to compromise. You're able to see the gray areas. It's not black and white, whereas one side is wrong and one side is right. It's like you're more attacking the problem than attacking each other. And I believe when you have those 3 C's, it takes you to a whole nother level, you know. Other values that I do put upon, of course, is the respect factor, you know, definitely. Your moral codes, which I call like your non-negotiable traits that you should not bend them for nobody. I don't care how attractive that person is. Um, and also being true to yourself. That's very important, because when you're true to yourself, the abundance factor kicks in. You don't have a scarcity mindset where you feel like there's someone that's not out there for you, because that's a scarcity mindset. Someone with an abundant mindset know that when you're dating, there's options out there. You
Yes.
know, if this man is not giving me the time of day and he treats me like a second class citizen, then I know if I stick to my standards, there's another man in the wings waiting for me. There's another man that will value me for me. You know, so that's the difference between abundance and scarcity. So yeah, that's a great question. There's others, but the basics are definitely the communication, comprehension, and compromise. That is so important to have.
Yeah.
And even though it's a basic, I think it's a really good context, because, you know, sometimes people communicate to respond and they're not communicating to understand and listen. So I love how you speak on comprehending, because you can have a conversation with your spouse and they're like, yeah, I get it. But it's like, did you understand? Did you understand where I'm coming from? Do you understand my emotions? Do you understand? Do you understand my perspective? So I think the comprehension is definitely hand in hand with communication. I love that.
Yeah, I like that too. So
thank you.
What is your input? I'm loving the jams today. What is your input on pornography?
Polygamy.
I know that word. I can never pronounce it.
Sorry about that. On relationships or marriages. Sorry about that.
No, it's all good. I mean, you know, to those who practice that format and have healthy relationship, I think is great. However, when it comes to a monogamous relationship or a healthy marriage, I believe that one person, there are so many different pieces you can enjoy and lust and love with that particular person, as long as you have that passionate fire still within your marriage. Also, just from a spiritual point of view, I still, as I mentioned, marriage is a 3-way covenant between man, woman, and God. And I feel like when you're with the right person, with the right mindset, marriage is actually a blessing. You know, so not, you know, again, if people, whoever prefer to use that ideology or their format as far as those other aspects, that's great. But I feel like with monogamy relationship, your best friend and your lover combined in one in a lifetime contract. What's better than that? You know, from my perspective.
I mean, to each of their own, but sister wives and trying to like share that's like, I think that's like putting yourself, like you have to share yourself with more than one individual and you got to give attention. But then I feel like it's also, you're fighting to get somebody's attention because you have to give this certain amount of attention to this one person. And then you have to be a different person with each person. So that person is not, I feel like when things like that happen, they're not really getting the person as they really are, because you have to be different with, it's like in relationships, period. Like me and Chaniera, our friendship, we have a friendship. I'm different with her. I'm different with my family. I'm different with my kids. You know, I feel like you have a different personality with that person, because you're giving that person part of you, and then you have to act a certain way with the woman or man that you're having this 3-way, 4-way, 5-way relationship.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great perspective. You know, I don't know anyone in those particular relationships. I would love to hear someone. I may have someone on my show later on about that. You know, even though my belief is entirely different from that, but I respect what they're doing. But yeah, I just think that one person, you know, that STE, that sexually transmitted energy into that one person and vice versa.
Yeah.
And just knowing, I just feel like when you're in a passionate marriage, I lust and I love my wife. So I'm still, even though we've been married going on to 6 years, I feel like forever, but I'm still unraveling little pieces of her little by little. And all those pieces still fulfill all my needs. So I don't want to, you know, have the capability to go out there and be with someone else or share myself to someone else because she's like that entree where she is the steak and the side piece and the mashed potatoes. She's like all these little different pieces that you know, so that's how I see it. I don't have to go out to get a separate plate when you have the plate with all different pieces on the plate to there, you know.
Yeah, but I think also, like, I mean, this is just my perspective and my opinion. You know, you're with your wife and, you know, you're able to work through, you know, your ups and downs. And when you have sister wives, like I said, you're just having drama left and right. And then you don't know what is the solution. You got to figure out what to do with this woman because this or there's a jealousy in there. And that's just a lot. I mean, that would be a lot on somebody mentally, physically, and spiritually, to be honest with you, because you're just all over the place. You know, you don't know where your mind is at. I mean, like I said, it's not something I believe in. I mean, it's what other people believe in. I mean, you know what I mean? And but like I said, it's just like my perspective. I just wanted to say that.
Oh,
yeah, I completely agree with both of you guys. To teach its own, you know, like Jenni said, that's too many personalities for me. And then I would have to feel like I'm in competition with my sister.
Yep, there you go. Yep.
I don't want to feel like that. I want to be comfortable in my stance, and I know what I bring to the table. And you don't need sister wives. I can do it all. You know, well, we can get a maid, but but I can cook. I can do it all. So, yeah, I'm hey, to teach its own. So if that works for them, maybe we do need to bring someone on here.
Yeah, definitely.
That would be
a healthy polygamy relationship.
Yeah,
there you go. There you go. Absolutely.
That's a good way of wording it. Yeah, definitely a healthy one.
Healthy. Yes, I mean, I mean, I agree with you on, you know, very well said, because I did a blog on this on dearbrothersdearsisters.com, you know, talking about, you know, how having the MVP, the most valuable player, that's all you need. You know, you don't need the entire bench. And I got some great responses from it. But you're absolutely right, to each his own. And it goes back to my whole theory, my concept when it comes to that third level, as far as men are concerned, that we prefer, you know, quality over quantity. You know, it even goes back to my teaching of the King, the DBDS King acronym. And want me to break that down to you guys? King?
Yes.
All right. So the K in King stands for, you know, keep yourself under control. That's the K. The I stands for invest in yourself. The N stands for never put yourself last. And the G stands for get down to business. So that's my DBDS King philosophy to my brothers out there.
Yes.
You know, that first K is important. You know, keep yourself under control. Not just, you know, you have to be emotionally centered, emotionally framed, which means that, you know, if you have a disagreement, you have to control your emotions. Don't allow your emotions to control you. You know, everything within that King format, I teach to the brothers out there, and it's been working well for them as well. You know, so.
And then we're gonna have to create one for the queen, so that you can
the queen
the philosophies, queen bees, you know.
I got you.
Well, I have a question. Okay, sure. What is the difference between the value of marriage back then than what it is now?
I think the difference is it was more from my perspective and studying this and listening to my grandmother and my great grandmothers. It was more of a duty and respect back then. You know, it was more like a lot of people would try to deflect and state like, oh, you know, it's bad relationships and women cannot leave. But just hearing it from my great grandmother, as well as others that I have spoke to and did my research on, they felt like it was more duty and respect towards that significant other and vice versa. The men back then were just more, they were all about just leading the household. Like my great grandfather, he was the type of man that no matter what, he will come to the house with something in his hand, whether it's groceries, whether it's something to cart, like a tool to fix the car, like something of that nature. No one was really about worrying, chasing a wallet, nothing of that
Mhm.
nature. Women were more feminine, definitely more feminine back then. So I just think today's generation is more about instant gratification, especially with social media that came into effect. Because when social media came into play,
Yes.
the art of talking has declined. A lot of people don't know how to carry a decent conversation like we're having.
Mhm.
You know, they'll
Yep.
just put WYD. So um,
No, no,
Right.
but
no,
back
no.
then,
No.
even before my
Mhm.
heyday, you had to. My great grandmother told me you had to learn a man to know how to court you. He had to know how to talk with you, not down to you, but talk with you. How to. The chivalry back then was even more outstanding, and that's why marriage was like very part of that reasons. But it's a lot of factors. I could talk about this days for days, but a lot of things came into effect with the 60s and so forth that kind of changed the whole aspect and things around. But that's why I'm here to try to reverse that trend, as well as I
Yeah.
see you guys are doing
Yeah.
an amazing job to help reverse that trend as well. So that way we can bring healthy monogamous relationships back to the forefront.
Yes,
Mhm.
definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So let's help some of the married people. What is some things that you do to keep your relationship alive with your wife, your queen?
I would say, don't become complacent. Continue to
Mm.
date your significant other. Um, Continue to stimulate each other's minds. And to my
Mhm.
brothers and sisters out there, don't stop doing the first thing that attracted you to begin with.
Yes.
Mm.
That's the most important thing. I still date my wife as if it was the first time I met her. In fact, just 2 weeks ago, I took her to a night picnic. It was like 10 o'clock at night, and we just stayed there till the sun came up. So
Aw.
that was
Aw.
one of our first times when we dated, and I just relived that moment again. Because thing is, when it comes to healthy relationships, you're creating memories,
Mm-hmm.
which are
Yeah.
priceless compared to how much money you're spending and so forth. It's the memories that you're
Yes.
creating within your relationship. So that would be my advice to those that want to keep that fire burning within their relationship.
I like
Mm.
that.
Mhm.
So do I. I definitely love it.
Oh, thank you, sisters.
So, Tramell, what inspires you to be a relationship coach, and what does your patience come from doing everything that you do?
Mm, I need to come up here more often. Uh, that's a good question. I would say collectively, I see that our community is like suffering due to this
Yeah.
instant gratification
Mhm.
society within our community, and as we see, is evident. Marriage has been declining. 2020 is like 30%
Mm-hmm.
of
Mhm.
that's it's just going down just these
Mm-hmm.
decades, and it just tells
Yeah.
me that it's an epidemic that's going on right now. So this is what got me into coaching, because I want to reverse that trend. I want to start helping people to build awareness, so that way they're more mindful of the partner that they're choosing.
Mm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
if we have more healthy marriages and more healthy relationships, it creates healthier communities. And when you
Yes.
have healthier communities, then
Mhm.
it just continues
Foundations.
to create a
Yeah.
healthier nation. But that's what got me very passionate and into doing what I'm doing. Really great question. Mhm.
Mhm.
Yes.
And I think when we do have healthy relationships and healthy marriages, the
Mhm.
generations after us will have more of an idea of what true love is. They will bring more
Mhm.
values, more
Yes.
morals,
Right.
and it would be reciprocating.
Yep. Mhm.
Yes.
I love that.
I love that. General blessings, not general curses. Yes.
Yes.
Love that.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I
Yeah.
So
love that.
we're going to get into your businesses and what you're designed to help singles and relationships in just a moment. But is there
Okay.
anything that you would like to share or discuss that we didn't cover? Because I know we covered a lot. Like we
did. We covered just a lot. It went by fast.
So it did.
It went by fast. Just one thing I just want to share is just be yourself, people. Be yourself. There's someone out there for you. Do not rush the process. Do not put the dessert before the entree, because if you do it that way, it will become a malnourished diet. So you want to put the entree first. Have that person get to know your heart and mind. That's the entree, right? So that'll be my words of wisdom before we get into the business accolades and so forth.
Yes, this is
yes.
So where can we find you? Share what you have for singles and relationship. Go into your book. We didn't even talk about your book yet. Your website, all your good stuff. Where can we find
Yes. Well, thank you again for your amazing platform. Yes, my brothers and sisters, you can definitely go to dearbrothersdearsisters.com. The site is dedicated to healthy monogamous relationships. So if you're looking for some nuggets, you're looking for some great resources, up there is my book. This is the seed that started it all. The podcast, the coaching, the courses. This is the Holy Grail. So you can get yourself a copy of Dear Brothers, Dear Sisters, Listen Up, which is available right now on Amazon.com, as well as on my site. If you're looking for courses, I have courses offered on the site, such as how to communicate, filtration system, what people to entertain and what people not to entertain. Got courses. We got coaching sessions. So if you're looking to be to understand what direction you want to go in the next level, myself as well as my brother Carl will be more than happy to be there for you and to help you improve and empower yourself. And we also have a page called Inspirational Free Content. So you can come up there, see people just drop some great knowledge on self-love, as Jenni yourself was discussing today. Drop some great knowledge on how knowing your worth will make you more of a valuable person, and so much more. And the last thing, DBDSsingles.com. So I do have a dating site. So when you go to dearbrothersdearsisters.com, and if you are single and if you are looking for someone, that site is for serious-minded people only. So if you're a brother up there with a 40-ounce bottle and you want to come up there, not for you. If you're a sister up there with 10,000 backshot photos, go to POF. My site is not for you. So it's for serious-minded.
No shade on POF. But it's not for you. We can't be shading people.
So yes, my whole life is dedicated to just helping our brothers and sisters to become a better version of ourselves and to promote healthy monogamous relationships, more marriages, more thriving communities. That's what my work is all about. So and also join the group. I have a group called DBDS, which stands for Dear Brothers, Dear Sisters, or Dope Brothers and Dope Sisters, however you want to state it. But it's a group with mature conversations. So if you want to come in and learn off somebody else, and as long as you're open-minded, we welcome you with open arms,
Yeah, so if you're watching this episode, I need everyone to go like and share his Facebook page. We have a goal. We are going to try to hit it by the end of the year, and we need your help. So go ahead and like and share his Facebook page. He has some extremely good content that he posts daily. A lot of people come on there and post their opinions, and it's truly a great group that builds relationships from people all over, just from different perspectives of how they feel about relationships and marriage and things like that. So it's amazing.
I can agree, definitely.
Oh, thank you, my sisters. I know my people out there tired of those other groups that just have the memes and everybody's arguing back and forth, but joining our group is very minimum. So anyone is welcome. Jenni, Chaniera, they're part of it. They're family. We're all family now. So we welcome you with open arms. And I love
come with an open mind.
Oh yeah, good advice.
Come with an open mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Tramell, for coming on Uncommon Women. Thank you for your perspective. Thank you for your information. Hopefully someone took some heed to all the nuggets you gave out this evening. So we have a question we ask all our guest speakers.
Yes.
What makes you uncommon?
What makes me uncommon? I would say a married man promoting marriages. That makes me uncommon. You know? So
Okay.
too many brothers out there that have been divorced 6 or 7 times, you know, saying think like a man, act like a woman, and brothers that die in relationships and not married, when I'm actually happily married, you know, living my truth and putting it out there to help other people. So that makes me uncommon, I believe.
So he's leading by example.
Yeah,
there you go. There you go.
Definitely leading by example.
Thank you, sisters. Appreciate it.
Leading by example. I love that. Thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate you. We are honored that you came onto our platform. And everyone, make sure you check out our self-love apparel at uncommonwomen.net. If you have any guest speakers, or if you want to be a guest speaker and you want to come onto our platform, again, go to uncommonwomen.net, as well as if you have any topics, any comments, and you have anything you want to just say to us, you can also email us at uncommonwomenpodcast@gmail.com. Also, make sure you like and subscribe and comment on our YouTube channel. And as well as stay tuned. Next week will be our last speaker for the season. And she will be sharing her testimony of being a mom of 18 kids next Thursday on 10/28. Come check it out and don't miss it. And stay uncommon.
Bye.
Bye.